that's jumping around right now. So let's start there. And here's the phone number, 503-248-0620. That is how you can reach me, 503-248-0620. If you want to call, if you want to talk, really what I'd like to know is the continued thoughts that you have with the arena negotiations between the Trailblazers and the city. And like I mentioned yesterday, I want the Trailblazers to remain here in town forever. And I'm going to continue to shout and do everything I can to make sure that that happens. And I would encourage each and every one of you to reach out to your local politicians, your local leaders, and let them know that you want to get this deal done. You know, the fact is, Tom Dundon has all the leverage in these negotiations. He's got them all. He has all the leverage. And he's sitting at a poker table. He's got the winning hand. He knows it. He also knows what everyone else at the table has, what their cards are. And when you're in that type of position, when you have all the leverage, you can dictate the terms. And Tom Dundon, again, I continue to say this because I know a lot of people are freaking out. People call me all the time now. Are the Blazers going to leave? I think they're going to go. I do not think the Trailblazers are leaving town. I do not think that's going to happen. And nothing that Adam Silver has said or what's been discussed over the last 24 to 48 hours has changed my mind on that. You know, Adam Silver mentioned the deal back in March, right? He talked about that. He mentioned that. You know, before Tom Dundon was formally recognized as owner of the Portland Trailblazers, they had a working agreement in place. And now we've got some people who are balking on the city side, and this deal just simply needs to get done. But keep in mind, the deadline is not here yet. I think the vote's coming up in August. It's like August 17th, I think. So as you know, when you get closer to deadlines, that's when the pressure is going to get cranked up. So let's go back real quick to what Commissioner Silver had to say in Vegas a couple of nights ago.
Spent time with Tom and his partners here in Las Vegas, and what we are most focused on right now, the league office, is the deal that we discussed when we were in Portland in March. I was hoping more progress would have been made by now on that agreement, and it seems to have gone off track in various ways. And so I have a colleague, Joe Masco, who's day-to-day on it, but we're working with both sides to ensure that the Trailblazers can have a long-term future in Portland. But there are several open issues that still need to be resolved.
Yes, open issues. So I think there was a working agreement that was in place, and now the council is having some issues as they work through their discussions. Keep in mind, you have 2/3 of the funding pretty much in place. $365 million from the state of Oregon. You've got $120 million from the city and $88 million that comes from the county. So really what we're talking about here is what, $8 million a year over the course of the 20 years? How much money did the city of Portland hand out to people on the street that could have access to their snorting kits or their hypodermic needles? These are small dollars when you look at the grand scheme of things in these negotiations. This simply has to get done. But Tom Dundon, and this goes back to the research and some of the reading, and I would encourage you to, just do some simple Google searches and read some of the reports about Dundon when he took over the Carolina Hurricanes. As he was negotiating there with the city of Raleigh, things got real contentious. Tom Dundon doesn't give two F's what people think about him. He's worried about getting the best deal for himself and the team, which is what it should be. That's his interest. Just like the city should be focused on getting the best deal for the city. The difference is Tom Dundon holds all the cards here. He's got all the leverage, and he can dictate terms. And I know people get uncomfortable with that, but that's just the reality. If the team were to end up leaving town, it's not because of Tom Dundon. It would be because of the city of Portland. It would be on them. So we have to make sure we let them know that they need to vote and get on board and get this package funded so that the renovations can begin. That's really what it comes down to. I do not believe for a second that Tom Dundon bought the team with the idea he was going to move the team. I don't think that was the plan at all. Now, I do think Adam Silver was communicating that, hey, if you don't get your act together and get on board and get this thing funded, we're not going to get in his way if he has to go somewhere else. they're cranking up the pressure a little bit, which is what Adam Silver should be doing because he represents the owners. And I don't like the way this is being painted as Tom Dundon is the devil. And that's really what's happened here. He's the billionaire. And you know how the story is. The basic lazy headline is billionaire looking for handouts. And that's not the case. The building is owned by the city. And I think it's the oldest arena standing that has not had any major renovations. What's going to happen if the city doesn't come together and get this deal funded and the arena is going to sit there? They're not going to be able to get it renovated without a viable tenant. You'll have no major tenant in the Moda Center, and it's going to become like the Memorial Coliseum sitting there and just rotting with little shows and little activity going on in the building because you couldn't come together on $88 million to get this thing across the finish line. That's total nonsense. It's hot garbage. There is a price to doing business when it comes to professional sports. Yeah, you got to pay for it sometimes. But there's so much more value to having professional sports in your community. And I think the majority of us understand that, but I think there are some that don't. Here's the beauty of having professional sports in the city. Like, think about what it's like right now in our country. Very divisive when it comes to politics or people not being on this page or that page or whatever, right? But you know what's really cool? I can go into Moda Center tomorrow night, sit down for a Trailblazer game. I can be sitting next to a total stranger, and within 10 minutes, we're talking and high-fiving because you know what? We all want the same thing, a Trailblazer victory. We're all part of the same Rip City community. Sports brings the community together. It gives it an identity. It gives it a little heart and a little bit of soul. It gives you something that provides an escape from the reality of all the other difficulties that we have in life, whether it's your kids or your relationships or your job or just the stress of life. Having a few hours at the Moda Center to be able to watch a basketball game and watch Damian Lillard knock down a few threes and win a basketball game can take your mind off all of that nonsense for a while. I mean, think about what the Trailblazers have meant to this community for years. Imagine not understanding the importance of that and not voting this through and getting the funding done to get this arena up to par. There's a price that comes with having professional sports. And if the Trailblazers leave, here's the number I would like to know. And if any of you know the number, then fire away with your phone call, 503-248-0620. Just think about all the different things that are attached to Trailblazer games and the Trailblazers being in town, which, by the way, how many other companies in the state are worth $4.25 billion? None? And yet this city has failed us over and over again because they've created a business climate where we've seen a lot of big companies hightail it out of town. It's unfortunate, right? So you probably don't want to let the Trailblazers walk. Think about how many jobs there are at Moda Center throughout the course of the year, how many people seek out the games, have jobs, and are able to get income to help their situation. What about the rideshare individuals that are able to take people to and from the games? The amount of people that use the mass transit? What about all the restaurants in town that rely on Trailblazer games for people to come in, buy drinks, buy food, and sit down and enjoy a basketball game together? The hotels, when people come to town to watch games, I mean, the economic impact of the Trailblazers is significant. So if you know the number of damage that would be created by the Trailblazers not being here, I would like to know the number. But it is time that they get this done. Don't jack around. Don't play chicken. You have no leverage. Okay? You have zero leverage. Outside of what? Well, we don't like your demands, so we're going to let you walk. That's one of the dumbest things you could ever imagine. Get the deal done. The Trailblazers belong here in town. It's a part of the fabric of this community, and you've got to understand that and do whatever it takes to make Tom Dundon happy and pursue him with a purpose to show that you want him here, that you're willing to do whatever you can to make things right so that they can thrive. It's critical. So that's where we're at. The rhetoric, again, as we approach the deadline coming up in August, People are negotiating. There are going to be things said, things written, feelings might get hurt, but in the end, it's going to drive them to the negotiating table and they're going to be able to get this deal done. I truly believe that. And again, they're haggling over $88 million right now. Over the course of a 20-year lease, that's $8 million a year. Are you willing to let the Trailblazers walk because you can't agree on $8 million a year? It seems like nonsense when you consider how wasteful government is. All right. I want to hear your voice. 503-248-0620. Agree, disagree? What's your take? The team is not leaving. I don't like all the fear-mongering that's going on. You've got to be able to see this through a wide lens and understand that there's a game within the game. And when it comes to negotiating, Tom Dundon is ruthless and he doesn't care how people perceive him. I would love it if he would come out and be like, look, Rip City, I just want to let you know that even though I just purchased the team, I understand the importance of the Trailblazers here in Rip City and the city of Portland and what it means in the Northwest, in the state of Oregon. There's no way I would move this team. We just got to continue to work to get this deal done. I want him to say that, but he's not going to say that. Why would he say that in the middle of a negotiation? The best leverage they have is the idea that they could move the team. Now, I will say this. If they approve this funding package and he looks to bail, then I would lose my mind on him. But I don't think that's his plan. All right. Dwight Jaynes will go in-depth at 5:20. Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio, talking ball at 4:20. And I want to hear your voice. 503-248-0620. Hope you're enjoying your Thursday. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, the Godfather, Dwight Jaynes at 5:20, and he has been all over this story, the negotiations that are ongoing between the Trailblazers and the city. Telephone number 503-248-0620. I will take your phone calls in just a moment, but I'd really like your thoughts on, how you see the situation. I just think Tom Dundon holds all the cards. He's got all the leverage. And if the Blazers end up leaving town, it's not going to be because of Tom Dundon. This is going to be on the city. And if you want to throw shade at Jody Allen too, I'm fine with that. But this is on the city. They got to get this deal done. How many times have they failed us when it comes to deals like this? This is a no-brainer. You cannot let the Trailblazers walk. And I don't believe they will. I'm just letting you know that in the process of negotiation, there are going to be things said that create concern. But that's the art of negotiation. And I do not believe that Tom Dundon came in with this plan to move the Trailblazers from the start. I don't buy that at all. They had a working agreement in place. Why do you think Adam Silver was talking about, the deal from March? It's like, hey, let's get this thing going, man. We've had this thing in place, a working agreement. Let's sign it and roll. Let's get the renovation started. Let's lock the Trailblazers in long-term into the lease. It's pretty simple. 503-248-0620. Did you hear the Thunder last night? I grew up in Oklahoma, and I spent my first 9 years there, and one of the things I used to enjoy were those spring and summer nights where the storm would roll in, and you would see lightning across the sky, followed by incredible rumbles of thunder that sounded like the voice of God. And that was a regular occurrence down in the Midwest, the Southwest, whatever you consider Oklahoma, the thunderstorms. Well, last night we got a taste of that, didn't we? Did you hear that? It sounded like the voice of God right over the top of my house. Loud and very interesting. Puppy Shots nearly destroyed me last night. He woke me up because he wanted to go outside. And because he's a little dachshund, most of the time he can't control himself and starts barking incessantly. So I had to walk out to the bottom of the yard, grab him, bring him back in. And then all of a sudden the thunder rolled in, and he's nestled up next to me because he's freaked out. Like worse than 4th of July. That's how loud it was. Well, I got up after he disturbed my sleep, and I went out to the golf course, and they had put all of the tee times on hold until the storm system passed because they didn't want someone to go out there and get hit by lightning like we saw at Oregon Golf Club a couple of weeks ago. So when they finally opened it up, it was like a mass exodus of people hitting the first tee and getting out of the course. Wild. And I was able to avoid the rain. But, man, that thunder last night, I mean, when I haven't, been exposed to that in a while. So when you hear it and you haven't heard it in a while, it's a new experience. Thunderous. Puppy Shots hated it. He didn't know what to do with himself. 503-248-0620. All right. I want to hear your voice. You can jump on board. I would love your take on how you read the situation with the negotiations. Let's go out to John and Gresham. John, welcome to the Rip City Drive. What's on your mind?
Hey, how you doing, buddy?
I'm well.
Good. Hey, just a couple things. So I lived in Dallas, Texas back in 94 to 96. And yes, the lightning, the hailstorms, the thunder, it's like right on top of you. It's amazing.
Yes, I agree.
Compared to what we get here in Oregon.
No doubt about it.
And then also, so I played 38 years of ice hockey. I'm an old guy. Played with the Buckaroo kids back in the days in the 70s.
Awesome.
Growing up here and stuff. So can you tell the people that are listening that Mr. Dundon, has a hockey team that wasn't any good when they moved to Carolina, and now they just won the Stanley Cup. So, he's a winning guy. He did what it took in the NHL to win, to get a Stanley Cup, and I think he'll do the same. If we give him a chance, he'll do the same with this NBA team that he has. So can you just kind of let him know that the people out there that, he has a hockey team that just won the Stanley Cup. So that's got to say something.
I agree. I think what it tells me is that, one, we know that he's very competitive, wants to win. He's got a love of sport. That's why he got into the business, but very competitive. But when you take over a franchise that was a disaster, and he was able to get a deal done with the city of Raleigh, to make sure the team remained in place. And keep in mind, everyone thought he was going to move the team to, Texas when he bought that team. And that didn't happen. He got a deal done locally, and it remains. But look at the work that he was able to do. They've been in the postseason ever since he took over. He's filled the seats in the arena, and they just won a Stanley Cup. And I think when you combine that with the success that he's had through various business ventures, his acumen, he's got a different way of doing things. But I just think guys like that who are really smart and creative, he's a creative thinker based on people that have worked with him, he's going to find a way to get it done. And as he continues to get used to and learns more about the NBA environment, the NBA game, and how things are done, how deals are made, he's going to get better. As I've said, I think this is a great time to be a Trailblazer fan because instead of being run and held by a trust, they now have leadership at the top, someone that wants to win and is willing to invest in the players to make that happen. All right, let's go out to Beaverton and talk to Rev. Hey, Rev, long time no chat, my brother. What's on your mind?
Well, I've got a little bit different take here, Chad. And, I'm kind of surprised that the hockey guy wasn't all over this. I think one of the smartest things that we could do if we had actual leadership in this city and in this state would be for our leaders to pivot and start talking to Phil Knight and his group about buying an NHL franchise. They should stop talking to Tom Dundon and Adam Silver, who are trying to work them and bully them. And financially, it would be a much smarter move for the city and state to do that. The arena is already set up for it. It's a $2 billion franchise fee, which is about the same offer that Phil Knight's group made to Jody Allen. And even if Phil is not a big hockey guy, they could make money here with hockey because it's a hockey town. You've got a built-in rivalry with the Kraken. I mean, it's just, and you could actually maybe even get Phil Knight's group to pay for some of the renovation instead of this jackass Tom Dundon. I really think, and worst case scenario, if the Blazers move, then you get NHL. And I know they would hate to have that because you love the Blazers. It would break a lot of hearts here. But people would warm up to hockey here, and financially it would be better because it's a lot cheaper for families to go out to see a hockey game than it is the NBA. That's my take.
Well, Rev, I appreciate that. Why not have both? Why not have the Blazers and hockey or the Blazers and Major League Baseball? I don't buy into the idea that Tom Dundon is the problem here. I just don't see it that way. I think Tom Dundon, he purchased the team, paid $4.25 billion. There was a working agreement in place before he was confirmed as owner, and he's trying to get this done so that the lease can be signed and the Blazers can remain here long term. Now, I love hockey, and I would make the argument that NHL hockey live in person is as good as any sport. There's no question about it. The hockey guys, the culture, how hard they work, their attitude, their approach, they're lovable, man. Hockey is great live. It's awesome. But this is a basketball town, number one. And losing the Trailblazers, the economic impact of losing the Trailblazers in this town would be devastating. Like tragic. It would be awful. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Tom Dundon, I've talked to Dwight, many people about this. I think really, if there's one thing that I would change, one, I do know this. I don't think he has a PR team. I don't think Tom Dundon checks in with somebody to say, hey, how should I word this? How should I say that? I don't think that's the way he operates. He knows what he wants to do, and he goes about making that happen. So when he speaks, he's not worried about how it looks, how it's received. He's just trying to communicate the information. We saw that at the chamber meeting out at Moda Center. He's not worried about hurting people's feelings. In his mind, this is, the game of negotiation. He's working to get the best deal possible, and he's going to make that happen. Now, he did make a couple of missteps early on when it came to, the T-shirts. He went with the terrible towels instead of the T-shirts. People didn't like that. That's minor. He didn't send the two-way players to Phoenix in the first part of the playoff series against the San Antonio Spurs. I know people were really upset about the extensive layoffs on the business side, But Tom Dundon's not alone. The majority of people who take over a business usually will go through and cut out what they deem to be excess fat. And that's just, it sucks, man. I hate seeing people I care about lose their jobs, but that's just the way business is done, right? It happens. So if you look at his track record, self-made man in terms of what he's been able to do in business, he took over the Hurricanes, had great success in building that franchise up. They just won a Stanley Cup. And now he's in a position to lead the Trailblazers. I like that setup. I like having someone in charge with a vision and a desire to win and the willingness to spend on the players to make that happen. But like I said, with the Trailblazers, just think about the reach that they have and the impact they have locally in terms of the economic impact and how many businesses are impacted on nights when the Trailblazers play games. Restaurants, rideshare individuals, the amount of people that have jobs at Moda Center with the Trailblazer games, the hotel usage, there's just enormous economic impact. And if you're to lose that, it would be devastating. And if they lose the Trailblazers, the chances of getting professional sports back in this town is slim to none. And if you look at all the mid-markets like Portland, the business climate here is a disaster. And that's on the local leadership. That's not on Tom Dundon. That's on the city for allowing this area to get into a place where companies are looking to leave town for a variety of different reasons. Think about how many lease signs are on buildings in downtown right now. The economic conditions here locally are not good. That's not Tom Dundon's fault. That's the local leadership for allowing the city to get into this place right now. And keep in mind with the funding package, 2/3 of it have been approved. $365 million from the state, $120 from the city, and then $88 million from the county. Over the course of a 20-year lease, what is that, $8 million bucks? Just $8 million in change per year? And how can they haggle over that? That's a small number when you're talking about a deal of this magnitude. So this is simple. You got to get the deal done. And, you know, Tom Dundon is not worried about people's feelings. He's trying to get a deal done. And getting a deal done with the Blazers is in the best interest of the city, of the state, of all of us involved. Because a lot of us are impacted by that. I can't imagine the devastation. I think it's even greater than what we recognize. We all know it would be awful if the Trailblazers were to hightail it out of town, but I think it's even worse than we know. Hideous. Let's once again take a listen to Adam Silver. Again, take a listen closely to what he had to say a couple of nights ago.
Spend time with Tom and his partners here in Las Vegas, and what we are most focused on right now, the league office, is the deal that we discussed when we were in Portland in March. I was hoping more progress would have been made by now on that agreement, and it seems to have gone off track in various ways. And so I have a colleague, Joe Masco, who's day-to-day on it, but we're working with both sides to ensure that the Trailblazers can have a long-term future in Portland. But there are several open issues that still need to be resolved.
All right, 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. You can jump on board. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Are you concerned? Do you think a deal is going to get done? Do you think this is on the city? Is it on Tom Dundon? How do you see it? You know, going back to my younger days and how important the Trailblazers are, I've mentioned this before, but it's the honest truth. When we were living in Colorado, I remember my mom and dad wanting to have a family meeting, which was not a regular occurrence. So me and my brother, my mom and dad, we sat down at the dining room table there at the house in Colorado. And they had just gone on a trip to Portland for a couple of weeks because my dad had business to tend to out here, and they really liked the area. And so they asked me and my brother what we thought about moving to Portland and being out in the Northwest. Well, little Chad had not traveled and seen a lot of the country yet because I was, 10, 11 years old? Well, I did know one thing. I had a poster in my room, and it was called Sultans of Slam, and it had like 9 basketball players on it. I think Gerald Wilkins was on there, Dominique Wilkins, Michael Jordan. I think maybe Charles Barkley. You know, some guys that could get up and throw it down. One of the guys that was on the poster was Clyde the Glide Drexler. And in my mind, I was like, well, never been to Portland, not really familiar with the Northwest, but they have Clyde the Glide Drexler, so it can't be that bad. And I told my mom and dad, I'm in. And that was my thinking. I was like, well, they got the Blazers, they got Clyde. It's got to be okay out there. And the rest is history. So the city's got to get this deal done. But keep in mind, the deadline, I think, for their vote is coming up in August. And as we get close to that deadline, the rhetoric is going to increase in intensity. So you've got finger pointing. You know, they're not helping here. They're not communicating this. I think I read in that report yesterday that the county apparently is wanting to see the plans that the Blazers have for renovation, but the Blazers are like, well, we actually want to know what the funding is going to be before we reveal those plans. So in the end, they're going to come to the table and get this done. What's the option here? You're just not going to agree to terms and allow the Blazers to leave? I highly doubt that's going to happen. So again, this is on the city. They have to get it done. It's their building. They need to roll out the red carpet. And I'll say it again, they need to play offense. No, don't be defensive here. Jeez. Court him. Approach Dundon like he is the love or potentially the future love of your life and shower him with praise and get this deal done. Come on now. All right, Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio coming up at 4:20. The Godfather, Dwight Jaynes, will stop by at 5:20. And you've got the freedom to reach out to me, 503-248-0620. Hope you're enjoying the Thursday. You got the Rip City Drive right here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, have you seen this report? It could be like my worst nightmare come true. But I think I might be able to find a way to embrace it. A story by James Williams of USA Today recounts what happened when the paper asked attendees at ESPN's ESPY Awards where James would end up. A professional pickleball player, Annalie Waters, named the Blazers as a possible destination. Now, of course, you might ask, why is that a big deal? Well, the owner of the league in which Waters plays in is none other than Tom Dundon. The actual quote when asked, "I don't know," said Annalie Waters. "I know the owner of the professional pickleball league that just bought the Trailblazers basketball team, and I know he's trying to get James, so we'll see what happens." That's very interesting. So you've got a pickleball player in the league that Tom Dundon owns who says that she knows that Tom Dundon is pursuing LeBron. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I would be all about that. The Trailblazers would have Ja, Dame, and Bron. And while Bron is nauseating most of the time, how could you not support that guy being on the Blazers? That would be must-see television. To see how that would work with Denny and LeBron, Toumani Camara, Dame, Ja Morant. Fascinating. And I can see Tom Dundon working. It's like, hey, LeBron James is a free agent. Why not see if we can bring him to town? Now, geographically, it would make sense to a degree. I mean, everyone I've talked to, they seem to think that it's going to be the Warriors or the Cleveland Cavaliers as the most likely destination for LeBron. But Portland, geographically, is located close to Los Angeles, where he could shoot to and from easily. So, West Coast city, close to LA, short flight away. There you have it. Wouldn't that be bizarre if LeBron actually agreed to become a Trailblazer and finished out his career here in Portland and did that retirement tour that he claims he doesn't want in a Trailblazer uniform? That's crazy. Wild. So that's the report from the USA Today. James Williams. Attendees at the ESPN's ESPY Awards were asked where James would end up, and Annalie Waters, who is a professional pickleball player in the league that Dundon owns, says, "I know the owner of the pickleball league who bought the Trailblazers. I know he's trying to get James." That's amazing. I never would have thought that a pickleball player would be dropping Trailblazer hot takes. I did not anticipate that. Brendan is texting me right now, says, "Can we give LeBron partial ownership?" Well, Dundon may be looking for some more cash. Didn't they buy like 80% of the team? I want to say that Bert and Jody have the other 20%. Why not offer that up to Bron? And by the way, going back to the Thunder from last night, Brendan said the same thing that I did. I've been out here since 87, except for the 2 years or a little over 2 years I was down in the Bay Area. That is the loudest thunder I've heard in the Northwest in my lifetime out here that I can recall. It woke me up. I wasn't like spooked, but it woke me up last night. Now, Puppy Shots was spooked. I don't know if he's ever been exposed to thunder like that. Now, he has, to a degree, on 4th of July, which is, well, this year, because of 250, it went until like 3 a.m. He hated that. But, man, the thunder last night was so loud. Like, he was not down with the voice of God coming down over the top of the house. So he was trying to get close, burrowing and getting close. He just didn't know what to do. He's like, what's going on? I would imagine in his mind, like the world is ending. The apocalypse is near. So there you have it. I don't know. LeBron James in a Trailblazer uniform. Yeah, we'll see. Now, he did say on a podcast that he just taped that he's not ready to reveal his next destination yet. Now, I'm not sure what that means. Maybe it's because he doesn't have a destination yet. The one thing that I do know, it's not like LeBron and his agent have a ton of options. They're trying to present it like they have options, but there's really only, a couple of possible fits. I think Portland would be one, the Warriors, obviously, and Cleveland would make sense from the standpoint that he'd have a chance to go back home and finish out his career with the Cavs. But one thing we know about LeBron, like he loves LA. He loves being on the West Coast. It's good for his family, his business ventures. I mean, it would be nice just to have, you want people to go to the arena and watch the Blazers. You get Dame out there, you get Ja Morant, you got LeBron. That would be must-see television. And LeBron can still make a contribution. Like, he's not the player that he once was. He's not the defender that he once was, but the Blazers do have a needed power forward or small forward or whatever position you call his. They could use some help up front. That would be interesting. But I doubt that LeBron James would choose Portland. I doubt it. It would depend on how many options he truly has. Warriors, Cavs, Blazers, who else? Because the problem is if you bring in LeBron, but you've got a young core and a team that's developing, and also we don't know what his true motives are. How much does he want to get paid? Is he truly looking to win a championship? Like, what are the true motives? Does he just want to have fun? I've heard that floated around. I don't know. I can't speak for him. I don't know what he truly desires or what he's looking for. All right, 503-248-0620. Maybe they could sign LeBron, give him partial ownership, and then he could help the council get this deal done. Get it done. All right, 503-248-0620. You can jump on board. I'd love to hear your voice, your thoughts on the negotiations. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, 4 o'clock chat here. We start with the Open Championship at Royal Birkdale. Jackson Suber is your leader following a 5-under round of 65. 2 golfers are 1 shot back with a group of 9 at 3-under. Scotty Scheffler 3 shots off the lead at 2-under par. The Trailblazers back in action tonight down in Summer League in Vegas. They meet the Nuggets, 7 o'clock. You can watch it on Prime Video. LeBron James is not ready to reveal his next team, but said it will be a fun time during a live taping of his podcast. Also a report out that Tom Dundon is in pursuit of LeBron James. World Cup final, Argentina and Spain, is coming up on Sunday. It's going to be here on your home of the World Cup in Portland, Rip City Radio 620. Mariners kick off their second half tomorrow night against the Giants at T-Mobile Park. And Major League Baseball plans on opening up their 27th season on March 24th, pending a lockout. The Godfather, Dwight Jaynes, coming up at 5:20. I love these comments from Kyle Kuzma. And maybe you've seen a lot of these videos floating around on social media. Usually it's with athletes that are on podcasts, but Carmelo Anthony would be one of the guys who has done this. But we're seeing this pop up a lot of late where these athletes who have signed multi-million-dollar contracts are complaining about the fact that they have a lot of taxes and fees that come with the hefty contracts. And it's like, yeah, welcome to the real world, my friend. And it reminds me that maybe a lot of these young athletes, they are in high school, junior high, high school, playing hoop, doing their AAU basketball. They go to college and then boom, their first legitimate job is being an NBA basketball player. I think there's a lot of guys in that boat. And then all of a sudden they're like, wait a second, what is FICA? You know what I'm saying? Like the first time you look at a paycheck stub and you're like, wait, what? Where's all my money going? But it falls on deaf ears when you have people like us who are grinding it out day by day to make ends meet. When you have these guys who are complaining about taxes and agent fees and the cost of living when you're making like $40 million plus a year, right? It's like, wait a second. You're upset that you're making that type of scratch? You kidding me? Well, Kyle Kuzma set the guy straight. Milwaukee Bucks forward. Quote, nobody told you to live like a king, buy 5 cars, or move with a 10-person entourage. Ding, 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 ding. You know, I got an education from Lorenzo Neal when I worked with him, one of the best fullbacks of all time in the NFL. And he said, and he comes from a small little cow town, Lemoore, California. He played his college ball at Fresno State. And, you know, his dad was basically a farmer, very frugal man. And so when he was drafted and was a rookie in the NFL, he went to the Rookie Symposium. And he said that they do a great job of bringing all these different people out to talk to you about the pitfalls, the do's, the don'ts, what to be aware of. And then they have access to all of these different accounts for healthcare, for savings, for retirement, different, type of funds that you can put your, money into to make sure that you have all these different resources at your disposal so that you can take advantage of your high earning potential in the NFL. And then when you're done playing, you've got something to show for it. And Lowe told me that, he's just a country boy, but he took notes. He paid attention to everything and made sure that he utilized all of the different resources that the league provided the players so that he could put himself in a position to thrive. and he did a great job with that over the course of his 16 years in the NFL. He also, I don't think, ever had an agent. He negotiated his own deals, and he said that he was able to do that, as a fullback, and he knew what the salary slot was for a player at that position, and so it was easy for him to negotiate. He said that wouldn't work for every player, but he took advantage of the resources that were at hand. And I think for a lot of these young players, it's one thing to have the rookie symposiums, which they have in the NBA and the NFL, but, these players need guidance. What frustrates me about looking back on my education through high school, junior high, high school, and even in college, is we learn all of these different things, but we never really have any classes that help us with financial literacy, right? To be financially literate, to understand, interest and compound interest and how to invest and how to take care of your money, how to save, how to plan, all of these different things, right? We're never taught that. I think maybe I had a class where, I don't know if it was a math class or not, this was a while ago, but I think maybe there might have been something on how to balance a checkbook, but that's about it, right? So these NBA players are just taken back by the fact that they have all these taxes and fees and so forth. I would say, too, that, there are several things that can be costly for athletes as well. Divorce, that can be problematic. Multiple kids from multiple different ladies. And then obviously gambling and alcohol and drugs. I mean, there are certain things you have to avoid. But I love Kyle Kuzma. Nobody told you to live like a king, buy 5 cars, or move with a 10-person entourage. And then I know it's hard for some players because they grow up in a certain area, they have their crew, and it's almost like they're expected to hand out big loads of cash to their crew when they finally make it, right? So who you surround yourself with, who you roll with, the type of people that you trust to be able to help you with decisions, it's all a big deal. I've heard Chandler Parsons talk about that too, that his dad initially, when he got in the league, was his financial advisor. And so his dad was on his ass about everything, right? Because he shared that story about how when he was playing for the Rockets, they're playing a game in L.A. against the Lakers. Kevin McHale was his coach. And, Kevin had told him, like, hey, I don't want you talking to Kobe tonight. He's going to try and play mind games with you. I don't want you to get into a conversation with him. And Parsons said that during the game, while someone was shooting free throws, Kobe rolled up on him and said, hey, what are you guys doing tonight after the game? He's like, oh, we don't have to fly out. We're going to stay over. He's like, oh, I got you guys. And so Kobe set him and his teammates up at the Supper Club, which is some type of fancy, very expensive establishment where Kobe frequented, right? The Supper Club. And so Mamba set him up, but he said, I'm not going to be there, but you guys you're good to go. Just let him know that Kobe sent you when you show up. And so they went there, and they all had a great time, right? Food, drinks, everything. Like, it was a perfect after-game meal and evening with the guys together. Players, some of the assistants, the coaches, everything. And so when the night was over, the lady at the Supper Club brought the bill over to Chandler Parsons, and he took the bill, and it was like $40,000 or some outrageous number, right? Huge number. And he immediately panicked. He's like, my dad's going to kill me. I don't have that type of money. And she said, no, you need to sign for Mr. Bryant. So Kobe took care of the entire team on his dime, but it freaked out Chandler Parsons because he thought his dad was going to kill him, because he said that my dad would get mad if I went out and spent $40 at In-N-Out, which is kind of funny to me. So there you have it. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. What I'm trying to do today is bring the temperature in the room down just a little bit with all the panic that's flying around out there with the Trailblazers and the negotiations with the city. Just to recap where I'm at, and we'll talk to the Godfather, Dwight Jaynes, about this coming up at 5:20. Brian Noe is going to join us here in about 10 minutes. We'll talk some ball with B. Noe from Fox Sports Radio. Number one, the city owns the building. It's far past the time that building needs to be renovated. It's the oldest standing arena with no major renovations. So it needs to be done. And it's much better to get it done when you have a viable tenant in the Portland Trail Blazers. Also, throughout this situation, the city of Portland has no leverage in the negotiations with Tom Dundon and the Blazers. Dundon has all the leverage because if you don't come through with the funding for the renovations, he can pack up and move the team. And there's nothing that the city can do about it. That's the ultimate power play right there. And I think Adam Silver came out a couple of days ago and was just letting everyone know, hey, I was hoping it would be farther along by now. We had an agreement, a working deal in place back in March. We need to get this done. But I think he was also letting it be known that, hey, if you don't get this done, we're going to assist Tom Dundon in whichever direction he needs to go to make it work with the Trailblazers. And if the team leaves, you can point the finger at the city, which has failed us time and time again. Now, there have been multiple counselors who have said they believe a deal is going to get done. And I believe a deal is going to get done. I also know that through the process of negotiation that sometimes the rhetoric gets a little bit nasty. Finger pointing will take place as people are letting out information. And that's the way it's going to be. And it was like that in Raleigh with the negotiations when Tom Dundon purchased the Hurricanes. He is a tough negotiator, which means he's going to work and do everything within his power to get the best possible deal for himself and the team. And he's not worried about your feelings in the process. So just remember that as we continue through this. This is not on Tom Dundon. This is on the city. They have to get this deal done. And I believe they will. I do not think that Dundon's primary focus is to move the team. I think the city needs to step up and get this deal done. And keep in mind, if you want professional sports, if you want those type of things in your community, which are of great value, there's a price of doing business. Period. That's just how it works. There's a price for doing business and having professional sports in your town. And that's why the city's got to step up. So just remember that. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. And we have a new report here from Wright Gazaway from K2. He says the city of Portland says it intends to send an initial term sheet to the Blazers this week. The tentative term sheet will include investment commitment, ask from the city, and provide a starting point from negotiations. That's good. See, you crank up the pressure just a little bit, and then things start to get done. Let's go out to the phones. I believe this is my man Matt out in Colton. Matt, I appreciate the call. You're up on the Rip City Drive. Fire away.
What's up, Chad, man? Yeah, happy to hear that article that that update you just gave. I was going to call and just say that there's probably a couple major cities in the United States that could screw this up, and Portland's one of them.
Yeah.
You just got to get a deal done. The city should be saying, thank you, Mr. Dundon. What would you like? The city of Portland, they've been trying to recruit other professional sports into Portland for a long time, too. They got to be thinking the long game here. If they don't give Dundon what he wants, get that remodel done, and say Portland, the worst case scenario, the Blazers do leave, what does that say for an MLB team they're trying to bring in and stuff? So other than them being, tax the rich and hate billionaires, I don't quite understand what's taking so long or what the pushback is.
Well, Matt, I'll tell you what, you and I are on the same page, my friend. Yeah, I think it's very easy. A lot of people in there do seem to hate billionaires. I don't. I think what Tom Dundon's done is pretty impressive. I mean, he's a self-made man. He wasn't born into money. He went out and made it happen. And he loves sports and wanted to get involved in professional sports. And he forked over $4.25 billion to purchase the Trailblazers. It's time for the city to get this done. All right, 503-248-0620. The Godfather is going to join us coming up at 5:20. But again, negotiations, just remember that. You have two sides that are battling right now to try and get the best deal possible. The deadline is not until mid-August when you're going to have that initial vote. So this is part of the process. Adam Silver's job is to represent the owners and support them. They can crank up the pressure. Tom Dundon holds the leverage in this situation. It's on the city now to make sure they get this deal done. 503-248-0620. Brian No, Fox Sports Radio is coming up next. Your telephone number to reach me is 503-248-0620. All right, Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio, is going to join me in just a moment. I also have an update on my man Rick from Oregon City, who took exception to my use of the word commie yesterday. He called me to let me know he didn't appreciate it, and he emailed my boss. So I've got an update on Rick. I do want to grab Kent and Bethany real quick before we go to B. No. Hey, Kent, I appreciate the call. You're up on the Rip City Drive. What's on your mind?
Hey, Chad, this is Kent. I've been just listening to the show over the last couple of days and the different things that you've said. Just wanted to affirm. It's so interesting for me to watch, a government, the city council versus a private entity try to agree on, the negotiations. It's obviously, public versus private. And you're right. Tom Dundon does hold all the control. The thing to remember, too, is Dundon's got pressure on him as well. He put out $750 million of his own of the 4.4. So he's less than 20% of the ownership. He's got people that he's trying to jump through hoops to make sure they're happy, and so he's doing the best he can in the middle of the whole deal as well, right?
Yes.
And the other thing to remember, too, is when Paul Allen bought the Blazers, with what he was making per year, it was the equivalent to a 2-week paycheck for him. That's just like mind-boggling, right?
Yeah.
So what he paid was 1/25 of his annual income. So, and thank goodness the guy is one of very few, because you did some numbers the other day. You found, 7 different arenas, stadiums for football, baseball, or basketball were built privately. The rest are publicly funded, right?
Yeah, on some level. And that's across Major League Baseball, NBA, and NFL. Only 7 arenas and stadiums total between all 3 sports.
Yeah. So when Paul built our arena, that was going out of, he had the money, and so he did the right thing. But we benefited by it. And the Blazers are the city of Portland, the city council to lose. It's in their court. They got to do the right thing. They got to come up with the money, state, everything. It's really expensive. It's a real bummer, but it's not like when Paul Allen passed away. The mandate was she had to sell it within 10 years. Yeah. So they knew this was coming, and they knew how it was going to go down. But it's just interesting because we're coming from completely 2 different directions. The city's looking for where we can find money, and obviously there isn't enough, right?
Yeah.
Probably need $600 to $700 million to make the place look really good. My gut call is, because it is a business, it is entertainment, but it is a business, is Dundon's going to want Silver may want Dundon and the team of new owners to only sign a 4 or 5 year contract, because that's how long it would take Austin, Texas, or Nashville to get an arena up and running. If they did decide to go to Seattle and let Portland be kind of an annex community, and you could travel to come see your Supersonics Blazers, then that arena up there can be facelifted. They're ready to go. So it would take, right now, the Sonics arena could be facelifted probably in 3 months.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. That's where the city of Portland's got to remain firm. It cannot be a 5-year lease. It's got to be at least 20 years. I'd prefer 30. And there can be no clause where he can buy his way out. If you're going to give, that's where Dundon's got to give. If they're going to hand over $600 million in public funds, Dundon's got to be willing to sign a long-term lease. No question about it. All right. He is my brother from another mother. I'm very happy to welcome him back to the show from Fox Sports Radio, Mr. Brian Noe. What's up, B-No?
What is going on, Chad? Doing? I love this. A little Blazers stadium arena talk. That was great. I love all that. That was fantastic.
We got people who are freaking out right now because you have a new owner in Tom Dundon. He holds all the leverage, and he's trying to negotiate with the city right now to get this funding package in place to get renovations to Moda Center, which is the oldest standing arena with no major renovations, so that he can sign a long-term lease, and the Blazers are here indefinitely. The problem is that he holds all the leverage, and as you know, in negotiations, sometimes the rhetoric gets a little bit sharp at times, and so people are panicking, but I think a deal is going to get done, but that's the process that has played out.
Wow, man, crazy times. Yeah, it's amazing how It brings me back to a random story for you, Chad. I went to a Chargers game a long time ago. They were still in San Diego.
At the Murph?
At the Murph. Yeah, it was Qualcomm at the time, but it's still the Murph, right? We still know it as that. But right before the game, they were like, hey, can you sign this petition to keep the Chargers in San Diego? I was like, no, I won't do it. They're gone, man. There's no chance. Like, once the stadium money isn't there, like these rich owners are like, yeah, bye San Diego, see ya. That's just the way it's going to go. So, unfortunately, some of the fans get caught in the crosshairs when it comes to that. But it's all dollars and cents, man. That's the main motivation when it comes to teams staying put, leaving, getting this arena, that stadium. It's all dollars and cents, man. These rich owners, they don't care at all about the ties to a community. It's all money, baby. It's all green in their eyes.
Yes, but one thing that you and I understand, I think sports fans understand, is isn't there a certain value that goes far beyond dollars and cents to having sports in your community? Like the way it brings us together, the connection you have to your team, especially these teams like the Trailblazers or the Red Sox or the Yankees that have been in their area for so long. Like there's so much value that you and I get out of that, which is awesome.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. But does the new owner feel that way about the community?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, is it just like a spot on the map?
Yeah.
If that person doesn't have any great tie into it, yeah, he can see the business aspect that you're talking about, but if it's not pulling at his heartstrings, it only goes so far.
I agree. Yeah, and that's where Tom Dundon has the leverage where it's like, hey, I don't want to move the team, but if you don't get me what I need, then I can move the team. You know, that's the ultimate power that a lot of these owners have. But it's great to have you on the show. And by the way, I know you're going to be with me for a few minutes, so later in our discussion, I'm going to play a soundbite for you that I think you'll enjoy because, Brian, no, you got me stuck in a YouTube vortex last night. Stories from NBA players talking about their competition against Larry Bird. And let me tell you what, it was a great 60 minutes that I spent going down that rabbit hole. It was awesome.
Oh, that's great. I love those old stories. And it doesn't even matter the sport. But if it's old school NBA players talking about their run-ins with Larry Bird and he's trash talking this guy and this head coach and this other player, I can't get enough of it. I love all those stories.
All right. I wanted to have you on because I want to talk some ball with you, and you and I are both big NFL fans. Jeremy Fowler from ESPN, he does this every year. They put together all 11 positions on the football field. They go through a survey with coaches, executives in the NFL, and also talent evaluators to come up with a top 10 at every position, which I think is pretty cool. And, of course, I want to start at quarterbacks with you because this year, Josh Allen in the survey has surpassed Patrick Mahomes and is now the number one quarterback, according to the survey from Fowler, with coaches, execs, and talent evaluators in the NFL. And I love Josh Allen like you do. I think he's a terrific quarterback, power arm, incredibly mobile, great leader. He's perfect for Buffalo. Like, he fits that town really well. But the problem I have with that, Brian, is that when I look at his postseason success compared to Patrick Mahomes, and if I ask a simple question, if you had to win one game or a Super Bowl or you needed someone to lead your team down the field to score a game-winning touchdown drive, every single one of those coaches and evaluators would pick Patrick Mahomes, not Josh Allen.
Yeah, it's crazy to me, Chad. It's tough when we do these type of things because no one's saying Josh Allen isn't a good quarterback. He's fantastic. He's done an awesome job as the Bills quarterback, but am I putting him over Patrick Mahomes? It's to the point, Chad, where I dug up a couple of numbers today. You're talking about the postseason, and I arrived at the conclusion, if your list doesn't start with Mahomes, I'm not interested in your freaking list. I think that's where I'm at. Like, when you look at this stuff, Chad, and he's 17-4 in the playoffs. That's what Mahomes' postseason record is. He he's looking up at one guy in terms of postseason wins, and that's Tom Brady. Tom Brady's record was 35-13, which is insanity. But that's the only guy that's had more playoff wins than Mahomes, who's still, like, in the first half of his career, right? Like, he still has a long way to go. 17-4. You look at some of the great quarterbacks in NFL history, they don't have a playoff record that's as good as Mahomes.
No.
If you run down just a couple of these names, Chad, Joe Montana, 16-7. Your boy Elway, 14-7. Peyton Manning, 14-13. Brett Favre was 13-11. Aaron Rodgers, 11-11. Think about that. Aaron Rodgers is an all-time quarterback, 11-11 in the playoffs. Drew Brees, 500 also, 9-9. My guy Dan Marino, sub 500, 8-10. Mahomes is 17-4. And it's not like the Chiefs are just dragging him to wins. Look at his touchdowns and interceptions, Chad. In the playoffs, 46 touchdown passes, 10 picks. Those are off the chart, sick regular season numbers. That's what he's doing in the playoffs. This list should be labeled amnesia, man. People just forgot how special Mahomes is. It's insane. For Josh Allen, as good as he is, he hasn't come close to doing what Mahomes has done in the playoffs.
I agree. And I think when you're comparing the greats against the greats like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, the only way we can create separation is to look at postseason, right? And what you do in the big games matters more than anything else. And I think a lot of this stuff probably has to do with the regular season. But I'm always going to lean on the guy that I know I can depend upon in the postseason in those high leverage moments. And really for big-time quarterbacks, what is that? 3rd and long, on the road, in a big moment in the AFC Championship game or the Super Bowl, can you make it happen? And the great quarterbacks do. And for Josh Allen, I just look back to the Denver game, right? Man. He got out-dueled by Bo Nix, and he was busy turning it over 4 times. That's on him.
It is. 2 interceptions, 2 fumbles. The fumble before halftime, Chad. It's like
I couldn't believe it.
What are we doing? He's nowhere near field goal range, like knocking on the door to score a last-second touchdown. Not even close. The only thing that can go wrong is a fumble, and you set up Denver in field goal range, and you give up 3 points. That's exactly what he did in a game like that. It's just an unforgivable mistake. When have you seen Mahomes do that? What's a stinker game where you're like, well, man, Mahomes was drunk in that game. He had a drunk first half in his last Super Bowl against the Eagles. That's about the closest thing that you could point to come close to what Josh Allen did against the Broncos. It's just amazing to me. That's the last thing we saw from Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And he still was ranked number 1. The thing that blew my mind the most, Chad, I couldn't believe this. I scrolled down and read a little bit of the piece, and it said of Mahomes, more voters than usual kept him out of their top 3, about 15%. It's one thing to have Josh Allen over Mahomes, but to not have Mahomes in the top 3? Dude, what are we doing? Those people need to be drug tested immediately. That's insanity.
No, it is. You're a complete loon if you don't have them in your top 3. I read the same thing. I was like, wait, what? There were actually coaches, execs, and evaluators who did not have Mahomes in the top 3. I wanted to ask you about Joe Burrow. There are a lot of high praise for Burrow, as always, around the league because of his accuracy, his ability to diagnose at the line of scrimmage, and he's really terrific with the pocket movement, much like Tom Brady was. Not a mobile guy, but a guy that can move around, slide in the pocket, and be able to get rid of the football quickly. But how much, how do you factor in Burrow's greatness with the lack of availability with the injuries? How do you balance those two out when you look at Burrow?
It has to factor in when you're comparing him to the best in the league right now. It just has to. If he's not available, that's a big deal. His rookie season started 10 games. Then it was, 3 seasons later, he started 10 games again. And last season, he started 8 games. Chad, that's just not enough, man. That's 7 games missed, 7 games missed, 9 games missed. That's way too many. I used to say this, when we were growing up, is I love these quarterbacks that are 16 guys, which you just look at their season by season, 16 starts, 16 starts, 16 starts. Now it's 17 guys. Joe Burrow is not even remotely close to a 17 guy. He's a special player. He's productive. I love him as a quarterback. He's just not available. And that's a huge issue. So, yeah, when you're factoring that in and you're comparing him among the best that the NFL has to offer right now, you have to bump him down farther than he is. Number 4, to be a top 5 quarterback, as unavailable as he's been, 3 seasons where he's missing at least 7 games, that's way too many, man. So, yeah, you got to factor it in more than these voters factored it in.
All right, Justin Herbert has been dreadful in the postseason throughout his career. I think he's 0-3 and has had miserable showings in basically every outing aside from the first half against Jacksonville, and that come from behind win by the Jags. But I was talking to a big Herbert fan a couple of weeks ago, and they're always going to point to the injuries on the offensive line and the lack of support. But what do you do with Herbert, who he has all the tools to be a great quarterback, but yet we haven't seen him get over the hump. Is it just going to be a matter of time working with Jim Harbaugh before they get there? What do you think about Herbert?
I think it will be a matter of time. If you've got him, what do they have him? 7th on this list?
Yes.
That's more of a projection than anything, right? We're expecting Herbert to realize his talent come playoff time. But you're right. It's been a stink fest every single time he's been in the playoffs. And the person that pointed that out, Chad, is completely correct, because you go back to last year, Joe Alt started 6 games. Rashawn Slater didn't start any. If you think about that, that's 34 combined starts.
Wow.
By your starting tackles. They had 6 combined. Like that's insane to me. Where or you look at it the other way, where, you know, of those 17 games, he only had 1 tackle for 6 games. That's unreal. And it took a toll. You're looking at the Patriots. Think about the playoff game against the Patriots on the road. It's not like the Patriots had this amazing defense. They're not the 85 Bears flying around out there or something. And Justin Herbert had 0 time, no time whatsoever to throw against the Patriots defense. So that's just unacceptable. I think with getting Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater back, that's going to be a big deal. They went out, they got Tyler Biadasz, you get Cole Strange, you drafted Jake Slaughter in the 2nd round. Like, those are huge upgrades. And John Harbaugh, you know as well as Jim Harbaugh, you know as well as anybody, there's sound of him when they drafted Joe Alt and they passed on Malik Neighbors. I think that's the way it worked out.
Yeah.
Where he's like, yeah, we look at the offensive line as the tip of the spear. It's like, yes, let's go. Like, running game, pass protection. They just didn't have the horses last season, and that was a huge deal for Herbert to deal with. I think that last season could have been a corner-turning season for him. He just didn't have his guys up front, and it took a toll, man. So I think getting those guys healthy, little free agency, little 2nd rounder, that's a big, big upgrade from year to year. So I think that Herbert could take a big step forward. But look, man, he's got to bring it come playoff time, or we're always going to have questions about him.
No question. Brian, I'm all choked up talking ball with you, Brian. All right, I want to bring you back because I want to talk a couple more quarterbacks, but then I want to play that Larry Bird sound for you if you're okay with that.
That sounds tremendous to me. I'll stall for a little bit. You could get a big swig of Mountain Dew because I know you got one handy right there.
There we go. Brian Noe's got my back. We'll come back. We're going to hear a great soundbite that I think Noe will enjoy. He has not heard before about Bird, and we'll talk some more quarterbacks. You got the Rip City Drive on Rip City Radio 620. All right, Bino, Fox Sports Radio is with us. I've been dying to play this for you all day, Bino. Are you ready for a good Larry Bird story?
Absolutely. Always in the market for one of those.
All right, here is Jamal Mashburn on a podcast with Darius Miles and Travis Best. And Jamal is talking about the 92 Dream Team and how he and some other college guys were brought in to play against the NBA guys, the Dream Team, as they were prepping for the Olympics. So take a listen to this. It's a spectacular Larry Bird story.
Bet y'all tear their ass up, and as soon as y'all start getting back, he ended it, right?
So, yeah, so funny. So when we got an invitation, it was 8 of us. It was myself, Bobby Hurley, Allen Houston, Chris Webber, Rodney Rogers, Eric Montrose.
Shout out
Eddie
Rodney
Martin.
Rogers, man. Shout out to OG.
Yeah. And Grant Hill was on that squad. So we get to La Jolla, San Diego, and we check into the Marriott. We go up to our floor, and we're walking in the corridor, and we see this tall white guy coming down the hall. And I'm like, damn, that looked like Larry Bird. So Larry Bird coming down the hallway, me and Chris Webber, and Larry Bird, you don't realize how big Larry Bird is until you stand up close to Larry Bird.
Exactly.
Larry Bird, legit 6'10".
Real talk. When I first stepped against him when he was coaching the pace, I was like, damn.
So he walked by us and he says, y'all those college guys? And we was like, yeah, we the college guys. And he looked at us and he said, get some it's going to be a long week, and walked off. And we was like, what the hell?
What y'all got us into?
Yeah, I'm like, okay. We like, all right, what's going on here?
I wanted to say what's up, and he just came at me like this, like, damn.
Yeah. So the next morning, we get up and we go to practice, and Roy Williams is our coach, but we only got 8. So we like, well, how are we practicing, and what are we practicing for? So we spent, I want to say, an hour doing the 3-man weave. And I'm like, what's going on here? Then they bus us to another location where the Dream Team is practicing. And these about 400 people standing outside waiting for the Dream Team to come out. They take us up to a top floor, and the Dream Team is practicing. They're finishing up their practice. And then they say, all right, get loose and stretch out. We're like, okay, we playing? They're like, yeah, we're going to play next. So we get out the gates. Like the first 15 minutes, we kicking their ass. we running them all out. Bobby Hurley in the lane, killing John Stockton. So they stopped the game and turn off the score. I think we were up like 72, 66 or something, 64, something like that. They just stopped the game. So we like, all right, was this halftime or something? They like, nah, the press coming in. So I'm like, oh, wow. So that's when the thing came out that Chuck Daly let us win. Because they didn't want to hold a complete game because they knew it was going to be downhill from there. Because we were trying to prove that we could represent the country. Yeah. So we lit their ass up. And then something happened. We're sitting there and we get back to the hotel. Rodney Rogers says something to, it's a group of them. It's Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and everybody's shooting the shit. And Rodney Rogers said, hey, Larry, you ain't hit a jumper since 84. Magic heard that shit, and we ain't think nothing of it. The next day we came in, and I never seen this. And this one I was like, this is a different breed. Magic Johnson fed Larry Bird the ball probably about 8 times in a row down court. Larry Bird got the ball on Rodney Rogers, and every time he was about to make a move, he told him what he was going to do. One dribble, pull up, going left, off glass. One dribble, going right, spin, shot, bucket. He scored 9 times or 8 times in a row, left the court to go lay down because he couldn't sit on a bench. He had to lay down because of his back. And said, young fella, look like 84, huh?
Dude, how good is that? No.
Oh, it's so good, man. Like the level of competitiveness, Chad, like that's the thing. Larry Bird was a multi-time NBA champion.
Yes.
And he got Rodney Rogers talking a little smack. How many NBA players today And listen, there's some great competitors, but how many today would take it to the level Larry took it to?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, I not only remembered what you said, I'm fired up about what you said. I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to embarrass you. I'm going to talk smack on top of this. Is just practice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the level of competitiveness.
His career was over. Bird was retired. He had the dream team, and that was it. But he wanted to prove the point to Rodney Rogers, and I love it, man. So thank you, because you're the one that produced me pulling that for you because of what you got me into last night.
Oh, that's so good. I do love like the little subtleties too, where Jamal Mashburn's like, oh, we're lighting their ass up. The score is like 72 to 64. I'm like, oh my God, I don't think you're crushing them exactly, but whatever, you know. Had to feel great, man, to even get a little bit of the upper hand on those guys. Can you imagine you're Bobby Hurley, you're Jamal Mashburn, and you're going up against the dream team, and you have any type of lead? That had to be the thrill of thrills.
No doubt. I've got one more QB question. We're short on time, but I want your take on it. You know, Caleb Williams is on the list for the ESPN rankings. He's near the bottom of the top 10, but I think he's sitting right there at number 10. He is. My thought on Caleb Williams, and I want your thought. He reminds me a lot of Elway early in his career, where Elway early on would utilize his athleticism and his arm strength to make plays, his legs. But as time went on and he started to understand offense and defense, he became a much more efficient passer and productive, utilizing his mind as well. What do you see progression-wise with Williams based on what you've seen in the first 2 years?
I like him a lot. He took a huge step forward last year, and he's just a special playmaker. I got to email you some audio. I don't know if you saw it. Your guy, Mark Schlereth, was crushing Caleb Williams. He's like, he's not even a good quarterback. He just doesn't play on time. I got to send you the audio. I think he's out of his mind. But I think that you could meet in the middle and say that Caleb Williams has to play more on time. It's too off script. It's like a basketball player in my mind, Chad, where you want to go ISO. Okay, fine. We need a bucket at the end of the shot clock. There's a lot of value being an ISO player. You don't want to be drunk doing it over and over, and like the Celtics shooting threes over and over. There is such a thing as too much of a good thing, and I think Caleb Williams, he improvises and goes off script way too often. I'd like to see him be more on time than he is, but in terms of the special playmaking ability, it's off the charts, man.
You are the Larry Bird of Sports Talk Radio, my friend. I appreciate you coming on, man. I love talking ball with you. And when I called you on the phone, like you get my juices going, and I love that.
We could talk on the phone for 9 straight hours.
Without question.
Oh, there's no doubt, because you'll say something. Oh, it triggers this thought, and we could. Thank goodness we're away from the like the rollover minute era.
Yeah, we would be in big trouble.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, dude, I remember the first time, like when those early cell phone plans where I got my first one, I was like, 500 minutes is enough. I got that first bill. It's like, better up the minutes, man. I'm in trouble.
Dude, it was great when you actually had rollover minutes. It's like, boom, it'll carry him over, man. I'm looking good in May. Yeah. Oh, that was fun.
All right, dude. I'll catch up soon, man. Enjoy your weekend, brother.
All right, you too, Chad Doing. Always great hanging with you, bud. Have a good night.
All right, love him. Brian No, Fox Sports Radio. The Godfather's coming up at 5:20. You got the Rip City Drive. All right, 5 o'clock chat here. Hope you're enjoying your Thursday. Open Championship at Royal Birkdale. Jackson Suber, your leader, he shot a 5 under 65 in round one. Multiple golfers are at 3 under, 9 of them total. We have 2 golfers who are 1 shot back at 4 under. Scotty Scheffler, 3 shots back at 2 under par. Blazers in action tonight, 7 o'clock tip in Vegas against the Nuggets. It can be seen on Prime Video. LeBron James is not ready to reveal his next team, but said it will be fun during a live taping of his podcast. There are reports that Tom Dundon is also in pursuit of LeBron. World Cup final, Argentina and Spain coming up on Sunday. Kickoff at noon here on your home of the World Cup in Portland, Rip City Radio 620. Mariners kick off their second half tomorrow night at T-Mobile Park. They're going to host the Giants, and Major League Baseball plans to open up next season on March 24th, pending a lockout. All right, the Godfather, Dwight Jaynes, is going to join us coming up at 5:20, and we'll go in depth on the negotiations between the Trailblazers and the city. That's coming up at 5:20. The Godfather has been all over this story from the get-go, and I think what helps him is experience and also, knowing a lot of people in town and how these processes, typically play out. So we'll get the latest from the Godfather, and as I pointed out, this situation's critical. The city's got to step up and get this job done. In the end, if the Trailblazers were to leave town, you can point the finger at the city. It's going to be on them because this situation's very simple. They have to step up and agree to the funding package for the Trailblazers. They own the building. It's far past time to renovate the building, and the Trailblazers are a viable tenant. Tom Dundon holds all the leverage in the negotiations, and he's going to dictate terms. He's going to make sure he gets the best possible deal for himself and the team. I do not believe that Dundon came in from the beginning with the idea that he wants to move the team. They've had a working agreement in place, and that's why you heard Adam Silver refer back to March. It's time to get this thing done. The amount of impact, and again, I would like to know this number. I'll ask the Godfather. I would like to know the impact dollar-wise if the Blazers were to leave town. Because if you stop and start to think about all the different things business-wise that are impacted by the Trailblazers being here, it's significant. And what other corporation in town's worth $4.25 billion? It's by far the most valuable. I mean, the only thing that would near the level of despair would be if Nike were to pack up and leave town. And if the Trailblazers end up leaving town, can you imagine what Nike might do? I mean, just let the floodgates open at that point. But this really is about the city. You've got a building that needs to be renovated, sitting in a crappy part of town that has not been developed. And it's the city that has allowed the conditions to worsen over the course of time. We have a bunch of buildings that have lease signs on them in downtown. The economic conditions here are not good. That's on the city, not Tom Dundon. They've got to make the right call here because you're going to need the Trailblazers to be a viable part of this town if you hope to rejuvenate this back to what it was when I moved out here. And I've talked to a lot of people that remember the good old days in Portland. So this is critical. And if you're a Blazer fan, if you are a member of the community and understand the importance of having them here, just reach out to your local representatives and let them know that get the deal done. Reach out to the council. Express your concern that this needs to get done. Now, I do believe it's going to get done. I feel the same way today that I have throughout the process, that the Blazers are not going to leave town. Tom Dundon is not Clay Bennett. He wants to keep the team here, but he wants to get this deal done so they can renovate the arena. It makes sense. Tom Dundon also is a ruthless negotiator who's not worried or concerned about people's feelings when it comes to getting the right deal. He's trying to get things done and put him and his team in the best possible position. But all the different businesses that are impacted, the restaurants and the bars in the area where people flock to watch games, Uber drivers, mass transit, hotels. I mean, you name it, there's a tremendous impact that comes from the Trailblazers being in town. Think about all the people that travel outside of the Portland area to come and watch Blazer games. I live up in Vancouver, as do many Trailblazer fans who travel across to go to games, to spend money. And then also, we'll talk to the Godfather about this, but what about the value that you have from having sports in your town? And we should know this, right? Because the Trailblazers, that relationship between team and community has been so strong for so long, but the sense of pride, the way that it brings people together. I love the fact that I can go to Moda Center. I can sit in a seat and the Blazers start playing basketball. I can be next to a stranger. I'm not concerned about his political leanings. I don't care who he voted for. All I know is that we're both Blazer fans and we're high-fiving 10 minutes in because we want Dame to hit threes and we want the Blazers to win. There's something about that that's special. It gives a boost to the community because you have an identity, you've got a team, and you've got something to cheer for. I mean, the people who were around in 77 when the Blazers won the championship, they still talk about it today with pride and joy. So this is critical. You know, the Blazers got to get this deal done, period. That's all. That's a no-brainer. What are the options here? Now, according to Right Gazaway, he put this out. This is a new report. The city of Portland says it intends to send an initial term sheet to the Blazers this week. The tentative term sheet will include investment commitment, asks from the city, and provide a starting point from negotiations. Okay, that's a very good development. And the report is pretty extensive. But and this is from K2. Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, visited Moda Center in March as part of the league's ongoing involvement in discussions surrounding the arena's future. However, it remains unclear which specific agreement the commissioner was referencing, as Portland City Council has yet to approve the proposed renovation plan. As negotiations continue, questions have intensified about whether the Trailblazers could eventually leave Portland if a deal to modernize the Moda Center is not reached. New majority owner Tom Dundon has not publicly suggested he intends to relocate the franchise, but also has not made a long-term commitment to keeping the team in Portland, adding to uncertainty surrounding the organization's future. Well, he just hasn't come out and said, hey, I'm committed to Portland long-term, because he's trying to negotiate and get a deal done. He's not going to say anything crazy right now because he's trying to negotiate. He's in the middle of a negotiation, something he's really good at. The report continues. The proposed $600 million renovation has been at the center of debate for months, while Oregon has already approved $365 million to the contribution with the project. That funding depends on the city of Portland agreeing to finance its share of the plan. Without city council approval, the entire agreement could collapse. A recent report analyzed by K2's Right Gazaway found that the state's consultant and the Trailblazers remain divided over which NBA market should be used as comparable cities when evaluating the project's financial assumptions. The report was required under the legislation authorizing the state's funding commitment. Portland City Council is scheduled to hold 2 additional public meetings on the proposal in July before a possible vote on tentative deal terms in August. And I believe that date's August 17th. Negotiations between the city, state, and the Trailblazers are expected to continue throughout the remainder of the year as all sides work together toward a long-term agreement that would keep the franchise at Moda Center for years to come. Portland Mayor Keith Wilson issued the following statement to Adam Silver. Quote, "From the start, the city has remained committed to striking the best deal for Portland. The Blazers are our tenant. We're their landlord. We value them, and we recognize that we need each other for the long term. We are continuing to engage in a community-driven process as we approach a city council vote in August. We are operating on an aggressive timeline to reach a new lease, and we have been explicit with the Blazers that design information and clarity around public investment are necessary to move forward. The absence of essential details from the Blazers is slowing progress at the moment when urgency is required. We know the NBA is committed to Portland, and we look forward to working with them to ensure negotiations on a renovated Moda Center and a long-term lease happen in good faith." So we basically have a finger-pointing match going right now. The Trailblazers issued the following statement. Quote, "The suggestion that the Trailblazers are withholding essential information is not accurate. The Trailblazers and the city worked for several months in lockstep with the state and county in developing what became Senate Bill 1501 and a market rate deal framework. Since that time, we've been engaged in multiple discussions of renovation elements, conceptual visions, and building walkthroughs with the mayor and other city officials. The city has more information than state leaders had during the legislative session." So there you go. That's where we're at. So basically a finger-pointing match, a pissing match. I'm not sure how you want to frame it, but that's where we're at. And again, this is the same type of deal that went down in Raleigh when Dundon was negotiating with officials there to get a deal in place for the arena, for development around the arena, and it got nasty. And this negotiation will get nasty at times, but in the end, I think they're going to come to the table and get the deal done, provided the city council does not allow this deal to collapse. So again, if the Blazers leave, it's not on Tom Dundon. It's going to be on the city. Now, if they agree to a deal and they sign and Tom Dundon looks to get out, then we can point the finger at Dundon. But I don't believe that he came in with the idea he wants to move the team. Let's get this deal done. All right, 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. The Godfather, Dwight Jaynes, is going to join us coming up next, and we'll go in-depth on this, and we'll get his take on the latest with the negotiations, and we'll focus in on the value that goes far beyond dollars in having professional sports in your community. It's very important. All right, appreciate your time. Hope you're enjoying your Thursday. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, I asked the Godfather, Dwight Jaynes, make sure you check out his Substack. I asked him to come back on today, and I know I've been bothering a lot of late, so I promised to bring him and deliver some Diet Coke in the glass bottle, which I discovered last night. He's back on the show. Godfather, welcome back, my friend.
Well, thank you, Chad. That was just about the only thing you could give me to get me on today.
Well, I'm looking here. There's a new report out. The term sheet has been sent to the Trailblazers from the city. This is reported by Wright Gazaway from K2. Let me just read these to you here on the term sheet. It says a non-relocation commitment, a binding 20-year agreement requiring the Trailblazers to play all home games at Moda Center, a labor harmony agreement, which requirements for labor peace agreements to support a stable workforce, financial protections, clear caps on public funding, limits on eligible expenses, and safeguards for the city, state, and county against cost overruns. Payment, a $3 million annual payment from property tax offset payment from Rip City Management, escalating over time with proceeds shared among the city, county, and Portland Public Schools, and community benefits commitments, requirements for community event access, local hiring, sustainability standards, and partnerships with albino-based organizations. So it's amazing how the pressure gets cranked up a little bit, and all of a sudden things start happening real fast, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And really, there's also a big movement going on now. I don't know if you saw this. So the business leaders, so many of them in Portland are kind of getting together and pushing a petition where Portlanders can sign and just urge that the team stay in town. And, you know, it's really, I think, a counter to the survey the city did, which showed that people didn't really care if the team stayed or went. And I think this is going to end up having more power. I think it's going to be a true reflection of how many people really want that team to stay in Portland. And I don't know what's going to work and what isn't at this point, but I think maybe you just need to make the city council feel a little more like they're supported if they go ahead and make the agreement with Dundon.
I would agree with that, and I think this is important because this is on the city council, and I was thinking about this last night, Godfather. If you look at the entire situation, the Moda Center, I think, is the oldest standing arena that has not had major renovation. It's in really a dead part of town that has not been built up, and we have an economic climate here in the city that has decayed over the course of time, but we can always point the fingers right back at the city, right? They're the ones that allowed this to get to where it's at. And so I think in the end, if Tom Dundon walks away with the Blazers, I'm going to point the finger at the city council because they're the ones that have got to get this deal done. They own the building, and they've got to understand the importance of having sports in the community. How do you see it?
Well, I agree with you, Chad. And you know, along with what you were just talking about, you know, they need development around that building. It would help the whole city. It would attract more people to that area, not just on game nights, but on other nights. And remember, it's been a while back now, there was a plan to use the same company that did the Staples Center development around that arena, and the city council didn't go for it. And we desperately need a development around there. And I think Tom Dundon would be all in on something like that because it would enhance his possibility of drawing more people to the games. And we need that. And that's the next step after this lease is signed. And I do think we'll see it. If the Blazers do leave town, then it's actually even more important to bring development to that area. Like you said, it's kind of a dead part of town. And you have all that river frontage there that needs to be developed. And we don't need quite as many parking lots, maybe. I just see it as an enormous opportunity for the city of Portland to do something right and to reinvigorate the whole core area of downtown. And I think it's going to happen, I believe, but it's just going to take a little longer than we thought it would. And I think as soon as commissioners, as soon as the council feels support for what they're going to have to do, they'll go ahead and do it.
Interesting. You were talking with me on the phone today, and you mentioned something that I think is important. I wanted you to expand on it, but the value and importance of having professional sports in your town that goes far beyond the dollars and cents.
Yeah, there's just no question. And the economists always bring out those old arguments about how, investing in these arenas, stadiums, these venues are not money makers, and they're bad investments for a city. And I would counter that by saying they may be right in terms of the monetary return that you get from an arena. At the same time, they don't measure the other things that these arenas bring in terms of quality of life in a city and amenities for a city, joyful and successful nights out on the town for families. All of these things, just, if you've lived through the years with the Trailblazers as I have, and you have for a good portion of it, you remember all those great times. You remember the big shots, the big wins, the playoff wins, even the championship if you're old enough. And those things, look, Portland celebrated in 1977 as a city like it has never celebrated before or since. And I'm talking about the end of wars and all kinds of things. That celebration was unbelievable. We're chasing that again, just as New York had to chase it for longer than Portland has been chasing it. But the chase is part of the fun, too, the mystery of it all. And look, I sound like a Pollyanna, but this is true, and it's why cities have all these franchises. I point northward to Seattle. They've got it all. They've got the NHL, they've got soccer, they got baseball, and they got the NFL. And they're going to get the NBA back. Look, they're not regretting any of those arenas, stadiums being built. They're not. They are proud of them, and they can't wait to go to them. And they're still brokenhearted about losing their NBA team 20 years ago. They want it back so bad, it's unbelievable. Doesn't that tell you something about how a city should handle itself, how it should do business? And I mean business. This is business for a city.
No question about it. We're talking to the Godfather, Dwight Jaynes. You can read him on Substack. I don't know if a number has been put together to illustrate this, but I was thinking about all the different things that are impacted by the Trailblazers playing games at Moda Center, whether it's the Uber drivers or the restaurants and bars where people fill in and buy food and drinks as they're watching the Blazers play. It could be all the jobs that the Moda Center creates for people who go in for work during the events. I mean, the list goes on and on. The hotels that are utilized for people traveling to town, the people that come from out of state to come in to watch a basketball game. I mean, is there any way to know the economic impact if they were to pack up and leave, a $4.25 billion business to leave town? I mean, can we even calculate the economic disaster that would be, Godfather?
Well, people try to do it, Chad, and I've seen figures attached. I just think it's a really hard thing to quantify. I just don't know how to put a number on that. I do believe it's substantial. And they used to talk about that all the time. When we were talking about Major League Baseball in Portland, so many of these guys stepped forward who are economists and said, look, the money spent on pro sports is not appreciably more than would be spent if you didn't have pro sports. It's entertainment money that instead of going to baseball or basketball, they would just spend it on going to shows, plays, concerts, other forms of entertainment. And I counter that argument by saying, no. If we didn't have the Trailblazers, people would be going north to Seattle to spend their entertainment dollars there to watch the NBA, just as the Seattle people. You see them in the Moda Center all the time, especially when Oklahoma City's in town. They come here and spend their entertainment money here. Same as baseball. And they've always said it about baseball. But you know what? I can't count how many of my friends go out of state to see Major League Baseball, whether it's in Seattle to see the Mariners, or as you and I do, we go all over the country. You've been to New York. I've been to New York. We go to Atlanta. We go to Cincinnati, go to L.A. You've been to these places. I've been to them. That's what you do if you want to watch Major League Baseball. But if we had a town here, I wouldn't have to do that. Yeah. And I guarantee I wouldn't do it as often as I do now.
Yes, I leave town so I can go to the events that aren't available locally. So I wanted to ask you about this. Commissioner Silver referred to it. Apparently there was a working deal that was in place, and he referred back to March. And I would imagine that working deal was kind of the framework of it was in place before Dundon was confirmed as the owner. So what do you think the hangup is now? Because if they had the working deal in place, and obviously we got 2/3 of the spending bill approved, and they're waiting on the council, what's the hangup now? Like what is preventing them from getting the deal done?
I would say cold feet on behalf of some of the counselors. I think there's 5 that are kind of expressing doubts about the investment based on reaction they've gotten from constituents. And just as, look, I could go back and tell you when Paul Allen wanted to build the Moda Center and he was paying for virtually everything, the unrest from taxpayers about, I think the city had to spend $25 million on roads, street improvements, maybe a parking garage or something, but the city had to spend a pittance compared to what Paul, and there was still all kinds of resistance to that. You're going to find people who will resist anything. They just will, especially if they think it's going to cost them money. I'm still not convinced this is going to cost taxpayers much money because it's going to come from funds that are either generated by players and staff or, in the case of the city, funds that are already there, that have already been taken out of our pockets for like the Clean Energy Fund, things like that. They can always up the rental car tax again or the hotel taxes, which is what other cities do all the time.
Yeah.
It's just, it just drives me crazy. Yes, I expect people to be against this and vehemently against it, but I think we have to show there's more people who understand this than the ones who don't. And most of the people who are against this really don't understand it at all. They think it's going to cost them money out of their pocket. This should be going to solve other problems like homelessness, drug problems, and all that. And let me tell you, they have those problems in other cities too, but they find a way to fund their sports also. It's not like, well, we got to get this done, then we'll go do this. It's not that case. You can do more than one thing at a time.
You know what really drives you crazy is that 2/3 of the package have been approved. The $365 million from the state, the $120 million from the city. The hang up is on the $88 million from the county. And over the course of the 20-year lease, we're talking about $8 million a year from a city that spends $5 million on like snorting kits and needles for junkies.
Yeah, I know, Chad. It's very frustrating.
But that's insane.
Very, very. I know. And I totally agree with you. It's incredible, really. And again, it goes back to what I believe, Portland's never understood the real intrinsic value of sports in a community. We don't. I would challenge anybody to find a similar sized city as Portland that has spent less than we have on sports venues. Memorial Coliseum was the last one and basically the only one that the city has built. And that's crazy. Cities build football stadiums, they basketball arenas, hockey rinks, they build all kinds of things for sports, expressly for sports. They have tennis facilities, they have all kinds of things like this, and Portland's just never dipped a toe in the water to do this because we've always been sort of high and mighty. We don't need sports. That's just the blue collar people that use the sports venues. We don't need that. So anyway, it's very frustrating over the years, Chad, to sit and watch this happen in Portland. The inevitability of it. It's just like when they said they're going to get the city and the state and the county to sign off on all the spending. And I said to myself, well, maybe they can get 2 out of the 3, but, I'm not sure about that. And, let alone, look, if they don't do that renovation now, the city owns this thing for decades to come. They're going to have to do it eventually, and they're not going to have the help of the salaries of NBA players. That $360 million the state is offering up, they're never going to have that again. And there's actually a deadline on it. I think December 1st is the deadline on that. And if you don't do it by then, you have to wait another year to do it. This is craziness. I mean, we're turning down a gift horse. We're looking a gift horse in the mouth. And that's just really dumb.
Yeah,
it really is.
It really is. It's it's unconscionable because in that scenario, if the council doesn't come to an agreement, no deal, and let's say Dunham were to leave, you would have 2 Coliseums sitting there rotting in the same dead space. And then how long until Nike's like, we're out? You know what I'm saying? Like the floodgates would open, Godfather. It would get even worse.
I know. And I didn't even mention, like you said, the Coliseum. We're already subsidizing an ancient building that should have been torn down years ago.
Yes.
And no offense, but that was ticketed to be a ballpark. That's what it was going to be, and it should have been. We would still have AAA baseball in this town, which was a growing business. Everybody's trying to get AAA baseball now. But, we might get beaten to AAA baseball by Hillsborough, for crying out loud, with the way they're supporting their Class A team and the stadium they have built. That ballpark they built in Hillsborough is terrific, and it could support AAA baseball. We've never built anything like that in Portland, not even close. The Pickles are playing in a ballpark I used to play in when I was playing Babe Ruth baseball, for crying out loud, out at Lentz Park, Walker Stadium. And trust me, the field itself is beautiful. They've done a great job. But the grandstands, I'm sorry, that's like a high school stadium. No offense, Pickles, you do a great job. I'm not knocking you. I'm just saying the city just doesn't want to spend money on things like that. And it's kind of it's really an archaic sort of philosophy, if you ask me.
I know a lot of people are getting nervous right now, are starting to hit the panic button, but, I did some research into how things went down in Raleigh, and, the negotiations. Tom Dundon is known as a ruthless negotiator, and it sounded like we're seeing a similar process play out here where things are starting to get contentious, things are going to be said where people's feelings are going to get hurt, but in the end, they came to the table and got the deal done, and now that place is thriving, and the Hurricanes just won a cup. What do you expect over the next few weeks as we approach that vote in mid-August with the council, with Tom Dundon sitting there in a position to where he literally holds all leverage?
Well, and that's the key, Chad. People just have to recognize you may not like it that he's not going to bargain. You may not like that, but that's the way it is. And if you don't recognize, you're standing in front of a firing squad with a blindfold off, and with a blindfold on, and if you don't just throw your hands up and surrender, you're going to get shot. And being shot here in this case is having that team leave town. So you can't mess around with this. I expect it honestly to pass at the August meeting. I think by then people will have had enough chance to figure this all out and get on the bandwagon and go for it, because we can't wait any longer. This is too important. You just can't take chances like this. It's a real bad gamble to think you're going to call him and that he's bluffing. Look, we know enough about him now. He's not a bluffer.
No.
He's really not. What he says he's going to do, he does. He drives a hard bargain, and that's the cards that were dealt. If you should be mad at anybody, be mad at Jody and Bert for selling to him in the first place.
Yes. I wanted to ask you about one other point you brought up to me, and that is when it comes to having professional sports in your community, there's a price that you pay for that. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, Chad, that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand. There have been some privately financed stadiums, ballparks built. It is very rare, and the leagues have taken steps not to let that happen anymore. Most leagues now secretly require you to have public expenditure, public money into whatever you're building. They want to see public commitment out of these franchises. And that's a fact, and it's really always been that way. If you want to play with the big boys, it's going to cost you money. They need a venue to play in. You're going to have to probably pay for that. You're going to have to build it, and they'll come. But that's the price you pay. Look around in sports. You think people are unhappy about building these ballparks and the stadiums, these beautiful football stadiums being built all over? People at Buffalo, you think they're really depressed over that new stadium they're building for the Bills? Goodness sakes, it's just the price you pay for what comes back to you for years in terms of quality of life in the city you're living in. Sports pro sports are a big part of that, and we don't even talk about all of the good things these teams do in the community. You've seen the commercials during Blazer games. Well, for every assist, $25 goes to build new playgrounds, or money goes to resurface outdoor basketball, courts, and all of these good things with the players participating, going to hospitals, helping youth, running clinics, all these things. They're all good for the community. They bring something to the table that is seldom talked about, but they do. They're very active in charitable contributions, very active with kids. There's just no question about it. It's a valuable thing to have in your community that isn't always expressed in dollars and cents.
All right. So I really haven't changed my stance on this. I still think the deal is going to get done, and I expect the Trailblazers to remain here long term. I can't imagine Tom Dundon trying to move the team after they agree to terms in the council. Could you see that happening? I just think they're going to get the deal done, and then we can move on to basketball matters. How do you see this playing out?
Here's the way I see it. I heard some rumble from inside the NBA on this. The Board of Governors have already kind of spoken, and the commissioner has heard them. If the deal doesn't get signed, they're not going to get in the way of Dundon moving. However, if the deal does get signed and the team gets what it asks for, they're not likely to sanction a move, because that would lead to distrust in other cities on deals that those teams are making. So they don't want him setting a bad example either way. They'd probably rather he sets a good example. If you don't sign, he's moving, because that would help all the other teams. Their threats then to move would be validated. So I think, and I see that all, they haven't had an NBA team move in 18 years. Well, sort of. You saw Oakland no longer hosts the Golden State Warriors. They moved. And trust me, the city of Oakland felt that, And so, yeah, there are teams moving.
All right. So let's see here. Any other questions I have for you? No, I think we're good here, Godfather. I'll be happy when this process is finished and they get the deal done so we can focus on basketball. Jeez.
Yeah, this is, I'm tired of writing about it, but I'm going to keep writing about it until I feel that, at least social media is giving me an indication that people understand it.
Well,
but every time I look, it's the same old stupid questions about it that people just don't get.
Well, because it's been framed, I hate how it's been framed. It's basically been framed like billionaire looking for handouts from the local government. That's the way it's been framed, and that's not the truth. But the one thing, and I mean this sincerely, Godfather, because before I even knew you and I was reading you, like, you've always been a champion for sports here in the local area. And I'm thankful for that. And that's why it's been fun to read you as you've covered this process, because you've been there and done that. You've been all over this from the get-go.
And I get really upset and I see this too, and I don't even know where it comes from. The media are trying to run the Blazers out of town. I'm not trying to run. What am I going to write about if they leave? Come on. I'm not trying to run him out of town. And I'll tell you, Bill Orm's not either. I know Bill. He grew up in Oregon. He's Blazer fan as a kid. He's not trying to run them out of town. He's just trying to point out things that people need to know about this. And us trying to run the media, trying to run them out of town, and the horrible media here, I don't get that, Chad. I really don't. I don't understand it. Maybe you do. I don't get it.
Oh, by the way, I wanted to share an email with you. I think you might find this somewhat entertaining. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, this came yesterday. So I mentioned yesterday on the show that there might be some commies within the local government who have helped drive the business climate down in the city, right? So this gentleman took exception, Rick, and he sent a email to Rich Moore. He said, "I'm writing because of what I just heard Chad say on the radio. He just called members of the city council communist because they are not moving fast enough in negotiations with the with the Blazers. This sort of opinion should probably be kept to oneself. Once in a while, Chad's political leanings come out, but this one is a bit too far. He needs to apologize and temporarily be taken off the air.
Well, you're on the air today, so I guess Rich didn't react to any of that.
No, he did not. But there you have it, Godfather. I knew you would enjoy that one.
Well, yeah, you got to be careful now. The communists and the socialists, I know, people want to lump them in together, but you can defend the word socialist. That's because they're not shy about saying that they're democratic socialists. So the commie one, you got to be a little more careful about. But, things get said on the radio, Chad. I myself never did it. But, things get said that might be misinterpreted by other people.
That's true. Well, Godfather, I appreciate it, man. Great work covering this story, and we'll talk soon. And I'll be seeing you next weekend, and I will have bottled Diet Coke in the glass in hand for you.
Yeah, I'm thinking now, for as often as I've been being on this show, that maybe one bottle is not going to be enough.
No, you got multiple bottles. Hey, you went to the store. Did you see it at your store?
No.
Oh, I got you.
I might have gone to the wrong store. I'll get that straightened out.
I got you, my friend. I appreciate it.
Good talking.
There you go. There's a Godfather. If you want to react to that, 503-248-0620. You got the Rip City Drive. All right, big thanks to everyone who made a contribution to the program today. Big thanks to Brendan Slaughter for engineering the program. Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio, for stopping by and talking ball with me. And, of course, the Godfather, Dwight Jaynes. And, of course, I love all of you taking time to listen and react and share your thoughts with me. It's great. That's going to do it for me. I'll be back tomorrow with the Rip City Drive at 3. I hope you guys have a great night, and we'll wait and see if we're going to get more thunder tonight. That was amazing last night. I don't know if Puppy Shots is recovered or not. All right, you guys have a great night. I'll talk to you tomorrow here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620.
All right.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you, man. Have a good night.
Yes, sir. You too. Have a good weekend, and I will talk to you next week.
All right, sounds good.